Welcome to TalkTreatises. I am your host, and I am absolutely ready to storm the beaches of knowledge today.
And I am your expert guide, ready to map the terrain.
Today, we are doing something that might sound a little unconventional at first glance.
Just a little.
Usually when we say we're breaking down a treatise, we're pulling down the heavy hitters from the shelves of the War College. We're talking Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, Machiavelli, Thucydides.
Right. We look for the hard manuals that tell you exactly how to flank an army, siege a city, or, dismantle a government.
Exactly. The explicit mechanics of power and the geometry of force. But today, we're taking a deep dive into a text that most people classify merely as literature, a romance, a social comedy. We are looking at a significant section of Marcel Proust's In Search of Lost Time.
Specifically the volume known as Within a Budding Grove.
Or À l'ombre des jeunes filles en fleurs for the purists out there.
Of course.
Exactly. But here is the mission for today's deep dive. We are not here to talk about tea-soaked cakes or nostalgia or flowery descriptions of hawthorn hedges. We are here to treat this text as a treatise on warfare.
Warfare of a different kind, but warfare nonetheless.
Yes, we're going to unpack the complex social stratifications as if they were military ranks. We're going to look at the philosophy of art and perception as if it were a manual on intelligence gathering and signal analysis.
And the psychology of desire as a brutal campaign of conquest and occupation.
It's a totally valid lens, isn't it? If you strip away all the velvet and the beautiful language, the narrator in this text is effectively a spy operating in hostile territory.
Right, completely. He's deployed to the seaside resort of Baalbek. He's navigating his own health, which, acts as a logistical constraint on his operations. His supply lines are weak.
Right.
He's using his grandmother's social standing as a kind of diplomatic cover. And he becomes obsessed with intercepting and decoding the movements of a very specific target group.
A band of young girls who appear on the boardwalk.
His primary objective.
So the angle today is that this isn't just a novel. It's a treatise on perception. It's about how we see the enemy, how we see the terrain, and how we construct the reality of the people we are trying to conquer.
And if you can't see the battlefield clearly, you lose. It really is that simple.
And as we're about to see, almost everyone in this text is suffering from a massive failure of intelligence.
A complete failure. They are all seeing what they want to see, not what is actually there.
Okay, so let's drop right into the first theater of operations, the social battlefield. Specifically, that dinner at the Bloch family's villa.
A fascinating skirmish.
So for context, the narrator and his friend Robert de Saint-Loup, who is a bona fide aristocrat, high-ranking cavalry officer, the whole package.
Right, he's the real deal.
They finally go to dinner at the home of the narrator's friend, Bloch. And Bloch's father, my God, this man is a general of his own imaginary army.
Bloch is a perfect case study in what we might call elusive importance. He is a man who commands a world of approximate facts.
Approximate facts, I love that.
In strategic terms, he relies entirely on information warfare disinformation, really, to maintain his authority within his own household.
He's the king of the dinner table.
Precisely. He views himself as a king in his own home, but to maintain that sovereignty, he has to manage threats from the outside world. And the biggest threat to a man like M. Bloch is the existence of people superior to him.
Okay, so how does he handle that? What's his strategy?
Well, he employs a very specific tactic, the mechanics of snobbery.
Let's unpack that. Because usually we think of snobbery as just being rude, but here it's a weapon system.
It is a defensive fortification. And Bloch has this tendency to claim he knows famous people without knowing them. He'll talk about the great writer Bergot or the financier Sir Rufus Israel, and he implies a kind of familiarity. It's what Proust calls the honorary lie.
It's stolen valor.
In a social sense, yes, it absolutely is. He's wearing medals he didn't earn, and he uses props to support this. There's this brilliant detail about a business card from Sir Rufus Israel.
Right, the business card.
M. Bloch doesn't actually know Sir Rufus, not at all. He knows some low-level employee who gave him the card, but M. Bloch uses this card to impress train conductors.
I love this detail. He flashes the card of a powerful man to get better seats on the train.
It's a logistical hack. It acts as a credential. He's leveraging borrowed authority to smooth his own logistics.
So that's how he deals with people he wants to be associated with. But what about the ones who are so far above him that he can't even pretend?
That's the fascinating part. That's where we see the stereoscope of social class. Since he cannot know Bergot intimately, he disparages him. He says things like, "Oh, him," I don't want to know him.
Which is a complete cover for I can't know him.
Exactly. It's a classic psychological defense mechanism. By dismissing the target, he neutralizes the threat that target poses to his own status. If Brigat is suddenly unreadable or boring, then M. Bloch loses nothing by not being his friend.
It allows him to remain the smartest, most important man in the room.
In his room, yes. And he demands total loyalty from his troops, his family. He has these recurring anecdotes, right?
Oh, the military critic on the Russo-Japanese War.
Yes, and the great financier joke. He tells these stories over and over. And his son, our friend Bloch, he laughs uproariously every single time.
Every time. It's a ritual.
It's a drill. The father signals and the troops respond. It reinforces the chain of command. He's creating an echo chamber where he is the ultimate wit, the ultimate authority.
It's so interesting because it shows just how fragile his authority is. If they stopped laughing, his whole empire would just collapse.
It would. But there's a rebel faction in the house, isn't there? The great uncle, Nissim Bernard.
The Nissim Bernard subplot is pure internal insurrection.
It really is. Nissim is wealthy, he's the one paying for the villa, but he is the target of constant mockery from M. Bloch. And so he, too, tries to use the weapon of the lie. He claims to have known Saint-Loux's father.
Which leads to a catastrophic intelligence failure, doesn't it?
Oh, it's a disaster. Because Saint-Loup is right there at the table. Nissim Bernard tries to claim this deep connection, implying this great friendship with the late father. But it becomes painfully clear he only knew him from photographs or, distant admiration.
The comedy of the photograph.
Exactly. His attempt to build a bridge to the aristocracy just collapses because the intelligence was bad. He overplayed his hand based on faulty information.
And they have this code language, too, the family. The Meshores.
This is fascinating. Meshores implies servants of God in the Bible, but the Bloch family uses it to refer to their servants.
So it's an encrypted comms channel.
It is. It allows them to speak about the staff in front of the staff. It bonds them as a unit masters and Jews against the outsiders. But it backfires when guests are present.
How so?
Because it reveals their anxiety, it reveals their otherness, which is the very thing M. Bloch is desperately trying to hide behind his bravado.
It's a leaked transmission. It reveals the very secret they're trying to conceal.
Perfectly put. And sitting right in the middle of all this anxious, sweaty social climbing is Saint-Loup, the aristocrat.
The counterforce.
Saint-Loup possesses what Proust calls aristocratic ease. He doesn't need to posture because he is the power. He's already at the top of the mountain. He treats the Bloch family with a kind of politeness that just completely confuses them.
Right. They expect him to be a hostile force, a snob.
And instead, he's this gracious diplomat. But Saint-Loup has his own internal conflict. He's a bit of a class traitor, in a way.
He is. He has these anti-aristocratic leanings. He says he respects the intellect of the Bloch family more than his own lineage.
Which is a classic case of valuing the opposing force's assets more than your own. He sees their neurosis and their constant quoting as intellectualism. He misreads them just as much as they misread him.
So everybody at the table is basically hallucinating the others. The bourgeois sees the aristocrat as a snob, which he isn't, and the aristocrat sees the bourgeois as these great geniuses, which they aren't. It's a mess.
It is a total fog of war. No one has accurate intel on anyone else.
Okay, so that's the social battlefield. It's messy. It's full of deception. Now, let's move to the intelligence training, the philosophy of vision. We meet the painter, Elster.
Elster is the master of intelligence in this entire treatise. He is the one who understands how to see.
And the narrator almost misses him entirely.
It's an initial failure of reconnaissance, a huge one. The narrator sees an obscure diner in the corner of the restaurant at the Grand Hotel. He judges the man based on surface signatures. He's alone, he's quiet, he's not flashy.
He dismisses him. He fails to identify the high-value target.
Exactly. And when he and Saint-Loup finally realize this is the Elster, the famous painter, they panic. They send him this fawning letter. But Proust calls this admiration in a vacuum.
Because they don't admire his work. They haven't even really seen it. They admire his name, his reputation.
They're responding to the label, not the reality. They want to annex his reputation to their own. It just highlights the immaturity of their strategic understanding.
But Elster is generous. He invites the narrator to his studio, and this is where the real lesson, the real training begins.
The studio visit. This is where Elster explains his theory of art. But for our purposes, it's a theory of intelligence analysis.
The doctrine of raw vision.
Precisely. Elster shows the narrator a painting, the Port of Carchetheret. And in this painting, you can't tell where the land ends and the sea begins.
The boats look like buildings, and the buildings look like they're floating in the water.
It's a metaphor, a powerful one. Elster paints what the eye first sees, not what the mind knows. This is absolutely crucial.
Okay, break that down.
When we look at a town by the sea, our brain immediately says, town, solid ground, separate from water. We edit the visual data to fit our mental map.
We apply a filter. That is a house, and houses don't float.
Correct, but Elster says, look at the fog. Look at the light at this exact moment. Optically, the house is floating. The church spire is a ship's mast. He refuses to use the intelligence of the mind to correct the pure intelligence of the eye.
So this is essentially stripping away all the labels we put on the world to see what's actually there.
And in warfare, or strategy, this is the difference between seeing a convoy, because you expect to see a convoy, and seeing a series of dust clouds and heat signatures, which might actually be a decoy.
Wow.
Elster teaches that standard vision is lazy. It's lazy. It relies on preconceived notions. Art and true strategy requires stripping away those notions to see the optical illusion that is reality.
He does the same thing with the church at Baalbek, doesn't he? The narrator was so disappointed because it didn't look like a monument. It didn't match the picture in his head.
The narrator went expecting a symbol. He found a building. Elster forces him to look closer, to see the Bible in stone, to see the tenderness in the sculptures, the Persian influences in the capitals. He reinterprets the data. He turns a strategic disappointment into a treasure trove of information just by changing the analytical framework.
There's also that fascinating bit about the past. The narrator finds a watercolor of a woman in a bowler hat smoking a cigar. Miss Sacripant.
And he discovers it is Odette de Crécy, Swann's wife, a woman who, by this point in the story, is a respectable, if slightly notorious, society figure. But here she is in her youth, an actress, maybe a courtesan.
And the narrator is shocked. He can't reconcile the two images, the past self and the present self.
But Elster gives this incredible speech here that I think is one of the most important parts of the text for any leader, for anyone. He talks about his own past ridiculous selves. He argues that we cannot simply receive wisdom, we must discover it for ourselves.
You have to earn the campaign medal. You can't just be given it.
You have to survive the errors. He says that the man who has never been a fool cannot be a sage. He completely rejects the negative wisdom of the descendants of doctrinaires, people who never make mistakes because they never take risks. Wisdom is the result of surviving your own foolish incarnations.
That is such a powerful idea. The self isn't a statue. It's a veteran of its own past wars, its own mistakes. Okay, so armed with this new way of seeing, this Elster method, the narrator turned his eyes to the main objective, the strategic campaign, the little band.
The target package.
He sees this group of girls on the boardwalk, and his first reaction is, well, it's fear, isn't it? Awe.
It's a classic case of misidentifying the enemy force strength. He sees them not as individuals, but as a zoophyte, a collective organism, a single terrifying entity with multiple heads.
He describes them as having this arrogance and athleticism.
And they jump over an old man.
Right. They just leap over him.
It's a deliberate show of force. They are signaling, we do not respect your obstacles. We do not respect your social conventions. The narrator reads this as a profound threat. He assumes they are part of a different, more dangerous world.
He thinks they're the mistresses of boxers or cyclists?
He thinks they're a biker gang. Effectively, yes. He wildly overestimates their threat level and their exoticism. He engages in what we could call social misidentification.
He thinks they are wild, dangerous, and, most importantly, inaccessible. And this is the key, right? The role of obstacle.
The absolute key. His interest spikes because he thinks he can't have them. The fortress is attractive precisely because the walls are so high.
If he thought they were just nice bourgeois girls from a neighboring town, he wouldn't look twice.
Not for a second. The difficulty of access creates the value of the objective.
So he uses his asset. He uses Elster. He knows Elster knows them. He uses the painter as a bridgehead, a way to get an introduction.
A very clever tactical move. And the moment the introduction happens, the deception is revealed. But it's not the deception he expected. The deception was his own fantasy.
The balloon pops.
Instantly.
Right.
The second he's introduced, the mythological goddesses, the warrior women, they just vanish. They are replaced by the Semenit family and their friends.
And they're what?
They're polite, they're ordinary, they're the daughters of merchants and lawyers. The mistresses of boxers are actually just teenagers on summer vacation.
It's a catastrophic drop in target value. Once the territory is occupied, it turns out to be just mud and rocks, not the treasure he imagined.
But his focus shifts. He can't abandon the campaign entirely, so he zeroes in on one of them, Albertine Simonet. And here we see the social warfare continue on a micro level. The N controversy.
Oh, this is great. The Simonet family is obsessed with spelling their name with one N.
It is a shibboleth. It's a code. To an outsider, Simonet with one N or two N's sounds exactly the same. But to the family, the single N is the mark of their specific caste. It's a way of signaling rank within the bourgeoisie.
It's petty, but in their world, it's the difference between being an officer and an enlisted man.
It's everything. And Albertine herself. The narrator treats her face like a landscape he can't quite map. He's constantly trying to get a fix on it.
The plasticity of the face.
Exactly. Proust writes about how her face changes based on the angle, the lighting, and crucially, the narrator's own emotional state. There's a beauty spot that seems to migrate across her cheek.
It moves.
In his perception, yes. This is the optical error of first love, or first obsession. He's not seeing a static object. He is seeing a projection of his own desires and anxieties. He is fighting the fog of war every single time he looks at her. He's creating a persona for her that just doesn't match the reality on the ground.
So he's engaged in this campaign for Albertine, but he's also fighting a battle on another front inside his own head. Which brings us to the psychology of the intermittencies.
This is the section that really dissects the self as a fragmented entity. We often think of a commander or a person as a single decisive mind. Proust argues that the commander is actually a committee, and the members of that committee don't get along at all.
We see this so clearly at the Rivebell dinners.
The Rivebell effect, the alcohol and the music, they act as a suppressant on the preservation instinct. The rational, long-term strategist in his mind, the one who cares about his career and his delicate health, is silenced.
And a reckless field commander takes over.
A field commander who only cares about the present moment. He enters present time. The past and future just vanish. The waiter and the tables become planets. The restaurant becomes this whole celestial system. It's a state of almost complete detachment from consequence.
In Proust's crucial insight here is the fragmented self. The narrator realizes he is a collection of different selves. There is the self that loves Albertine. There is the self that is bored by her. There is the self that wants to work.
And they switch control without warning. It's like a constant coup d'etat happening inside his own headquarters. And the will is the most mysterious part of this. It works in the background.
How so?
While his intellect is busy debating the value of the campaign for Albertine, his will is quietly buying the train ticket. It's ensuring the objective is met even while the conscious mind is dithering and having doubts.
There's a specific tactical maneuver I want to discuss from this period. The ferret, or ferret game. The ring game.
Yes. A classic intelligence blunder. The narrator is playing this game with the girls, and he holds Albertine's hand, he squeezes it. He projects a secret understanding.
He believes he is sending a coded message. We are together in this. We have a pact.
And he thinks she's receiving it. He perceives a return signal, a slight pressure from her fingers, but later he realizes Albertine is virtuous, or at least she claims to be.
So the signal he thought he sent, I'm a potential lover, was received as, I am a friend.
Or perhaps, I'm a creep, we don't know. But the brazen look he saw on the boardwalk, the one that started this whole thing, was almost certainly false intelligence.
A complete misinterpretation of signals intelligence.
Right.
Which leads us to the essay crisis. This feels less like a battle and more like a training exercise that reveals the hierarchy of the unit.
It is pure intellectual posturing. Giselle, one of the girls, has written an essay for her exam. The prompt is Sophocles writing to Racine, a standard academic task.
And Andre, another girl in the band, just tears it apart.
Andre is the intellectual dandy of the group. She dissects the essay with surgical precision. She criticizes the use of sir versus my friend. She brings up obscure theological differences between the characters in their plays.
But this isn't about helping Giselle get a better grade, is it?
Not at all. It's about dominance. It's pure social signaling. Andre is demonstrating that she possesses superior cultural capital. She's asserting her rank within the little band. She is showing the narrator, I am the officer here. These others are the infantry.
It's a bloodless battle, but it absolutely establishes the pecking order.
Without a doubt.
And finally, after all this maneuvering and intelligence gathering, we get to the physical battle. The failed coup, the night at the hotel.
The failed kiss. The narrator finally maneuvers to get Albertine alone in his hotel room. He believes the campaign is over. He believes surrender is imminent.
Why does he think that? What's his intelligence based on?
It's based on a critical error. He interprets the logistics. her physical presence in his room as intent. Her willingness to visit means, in his mind, a willingness to submit. He misreads the signal completely.
And then, the bell.
The ultimate countermeasure. He moves in for the kiss, the final assault, and she reaches out and pulls the bell rope. She summons the maid, Francois.
It's brilliant. It's just brilliant. She doesn't slap him. She doesn't scream. She calls in reinforcements.
She changes the entire tactical situation instantly. By bringing a third party into the room, she neutralizes the threat without a direct, messy confrontation. It is a masterful defensive maneuver.
And the aftermath is just as telling. The narrator's internal propaganda machine kicks right into gear.
Immediately. He engages in desperate rationalization. He cannot accept the simple truth that she just didn't want him. So he tells himself, she was afraid of my bad breath. Or she was afraid of catching my illness.
He reconstructs the entire narrative of the defeat to preserve his own morale, to save face with himself.
And this leads him to a very sophisticated strategic concept, the theory of multiple ends.
Right. What's that about?
He realizes that people like the old diplomat M. de Norpo, or here Albertine, often perform a single action to achieve multiple, sometimes contradictory goals.
Could you explain that? Give me an example.
Albertine might visit his room for the thrill and excitement of the illicit meeting, and for the innocent pleasure of having an interesting conversation, and perhaps to cement her social standing with him. The narrator assumes she is there for one reason: sex. He fails to see the other vectors.
I see.
A good strategist, Proust suggests, understands that an opponent's move often serves 3 or 4 different agendas simultaneously. You can't just focus on the one that threatens you most.
So putting this all together, we have the social battlefield of the blocks, we have the intelligence training of Elster, the campaign for the little band, the internal fragmentation of the self. What is the final takeaway from this whole treatise?
The fundamental takeaway is the disconnect between our intellectual labels and the raw visual reality. That's Elster's great lesson. We are operating in a world of concepts that blind us to what's right in front of our eyes.
And that social status is this fluid, deceptive game of confidence and disinformation.
Exactly. And that love is subjective. We create the person we love. We draw a map of a country that exists only in our imagination, and then we invade it.
And when we finally occupy it, we are almost always disappointed that the reality doesn't match the map we drew.
We fall in love with the map, not the territory.
Precisely.
And the Elster method, trying to see the world without the labels, is the only way to break through that fog.
Incredible. Okay, now, before we wrap up, we have to do our thought experiment segment.
My favorite part.
Disclaimer. This segment is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Do not use these strategies to overthrow a government or manipulate your significant other.
Please, we are not liable.
Thought experiment number 1. The Elster strategy in modern intelligence. So the scenario: we apply Elster's theory of raw vision to an AI defense system. Currently, AI looks for objects. It says, that is a truck. That is a missile silo. It uses labels.
It uses the intellect, just as Elster warned against.
Right. So here's the twist. What if we built a strategic defense system based on impressionism? An AI that ignores all metadata, all labels, all context. It only analyzes the retinal impression, the raw pixel clusters, the light refraction, the atmospheric distortion.
So instead of looking for a tank, it's looking for a significant, dense, metallic disruption in the visual field that reflects light in a specific, angular way.
Exactly. It might catch a stealth bomber that is designed to fool the plane classifier because the impressionist AI sees the shadow of the plane on the clouds below or the heat distortion of the air around it, not the object itself. It sees the sea and the land.
But the risk would be hallucination, surely. Without the intellect to filter the data, it might interpret a flock of birds as an invading drone swarm because the morning light hit their wings in a way that created a hostile impression.
It would be unbelievably paranoid. But it would also be impossible to fool with standard camouflage or decoys.
It suggests that the ultimate intelligence system needs 2 brains working in tandem. The Elster brain for raw perception and the Norpus brain for diplomatic context and rational filtering. One without the other is fatal.
I like that. Okay, thought experiment number 2, the intermittencies of geopolitics, the scenario. We stop treating a nation state as a single entity. Usually we say Germany wants X or China wants Y. We treat space as a single person with a single will.
But Proust tells us that the person is a committee of conflicting intermittent selves. The Monday self is not the Tuesday self.
So the twist, a new diplomatic strategy called the Albertine doctrine. You do not negotiate with the state. You negotiate with the specific self that is active at that moment.
Wow. Okay. That's profound. It means you recognize that the treaty signed by the economic pragmatist self of a nation, the Monday self, might be completely rejected by the nationalist ideologue self that takes over on Tuesday after an election or a crisis.
So you don't even try to get a consistent long-term agreement. You structure your diplomacy to manage the schizophrenia. You deliberately delay negotiations when the drunk, reckless Rivbel self is running the foreign ministry. You strike when the cautious, virtuous self is in charge.
It implies that consistency in foreign policy is a myth we tell ourselves. The goal isn't to find a stable partner, it's to manage a volatile patient with what amounts to dissociative identity disorder.
It changes the whole game. You aren't playing chess against one opponent, you're playing chess against a team where the players keep swapping seats in the middle of the match and they don't tell you.
Which, if you look at the last 100 years of history, is exactly what happens.
And on that frankly terrifying note, we will wrap up. This has been a deep dive into the strategy of Proust.
A pleasure as always.
I'm your host.
And I'm your expert.
This is TalkTreatises. See you in the field.